If you look at international negotiations, for example, it's obvious that if you negotiate with another party or between two parties that are at odds, none of them typically negotiate on their home turf, right? You find some neutral territory. And when you talk to people, they seem to acknowledge that this is true. And we know that in sports it's true as well. So teams typically win if they have a balanced home and away schedule, they win more games at home. Now, the reasons there are somewhat different than in a negotiation because there is the role of spectators, for example, that could impact how referees behave during the game. None of this is really relevant to understanding a negotiation. So the negotiation, the same phenomenon might occur, but it might be somewhat differently motivated and explained than in a sports context, right? So our idea was to figure really this one out. So no one has really done a systematic analysis of why this phenomenon occurs and what the mechanisms are that explain it really. In most research, you first want to figure out if what you're saying is true, right? So the first thing that you do is you run an experiment that's very simple that tries to establish, does the effect exist? So we had parties negotiate over a pound of coffee, and we manipulated the extent to which they felt at home in an office space. So a party would be allowed to go into an office space, 20 minutes. They had time to customize the office space by selecting different pieces of furniture or putting posters up on the wall, log into a computer, and I think they even were given a key. And so as a result, they had 20 minutes basically to make a nondescript office space their own. Now, a party then was led to believe that this person had this office permanently. So these were the residents. So this created then a visiting condition. One party being the resident, the other the visitor. And so we had these two parties negotiate over a very simple contract over a pound of coffee. And what we found is that it does make a huge difference. If you are a resident, meaning you had only 20 minutes to customize a space, basically. You made the space your own. You do much better in a negotiation, meaning you claim more value. So if you were a seller of the pound of coffee, you sell it for more, right? If you're a buyer, you buy it for less, basically. This is what we found. And we also found that by creating a neutral condition, that this effect is not only due because that the residents did better, but it's also that the visitors did worse. So if you compare it to a neutral condition in the middle, you see visiting parties performing significantly worse and resident parties performing significantly better. And as a result, you have a huge gap. They claim 60 to 160% more value, which is a huge number. Once we manipulated the same thing, resident visiting party, pound of coffee, we asked them how confident they were. We administered a measure of confidence, so they filled out questions. And then we looked whether or not this would explain this difference in the price that eventually was negotiated, and it did. So that led us to believe it is, in fact, confidence is at least one of the mechanisms that explains why visiting parties do worse than residents in a distributive negotiation. If it is confidence that matters, can we manipulate confidence? Can we boost someone's confidence, a visiting party's confidence, prior to the negotiation, and would that make a difference? It should if our arguments were correct. And so what we then did is we gave people fake feedback. We asked them to fill out a questionnaire. It had questions related to negotiation, but it wasn't indicative of their skill at all. So we gave them bogus feedback. We told them, well, you did really good, so I expect you, or your skills are really high, so I expect you to do really well in the negotiation. And sure enough, those visiting parties closed the gap to the residents. So this, again, solidifies the argument that it is really confidence that matters as the explanatory mechanisms of these findings.